Hello and welcome to Archvelder's Hacks with Archvelder and his amazing hacks. Recently Blizzard changed all Legion raids to personal loot, and there was some excitement and speculation in the goldmaking community as to how profitable this would be. A video by the fantastic Kraken Latte revealed that doing Legion raids in their entirety was not especially profitable. Now, Kraken Latte's numbers are accurate, so why am I making this video? The reason is that while running through every Legion raid isn't especially profitable, there are some tricks to greatly speed up the process and increase gold per hour. The basic problem with farming old raids is that almost all of the profit comes from killing bosses, which is in itself a very good source of gold. But to actually get to the bosses, you have to waste a lot of time wading through trash and running down passages. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get around this problem by using LFR to cut out as much of that downtime as possible and increase your gold per minute invested dramatically. Now, as I've just shown, first port to Legion Dalaran and speak to Archmage Timir in the Violet Hold. Choose the option from the tooltip, Grant Me a Vision of the Dark Bow. Now, this will take you almost directly to the first boss of the Emerald Nightmare, the Dragon Nythendra. You have to kill all the mobs around Nythendra before you can attack her. You can then kill her in under a minute with 450 gear. It will take about half a minute longer if you're doing this on a freshly dinged 120. Now, you'll notice that Nythendra and indeed all Legion bosses drop golden items that you can vendor for an average total of 225 gold. Now, is this actually worth it? It depends. If you're the type of person who wants the absolute highest return of gold per hour and don't mind selling stuff on the auction house, then there are much better methods. And indeed there are some really powerful game-breaking strategies on my Patreon right now, which will make significantly more gold per hour than any raw gold strategy. But if you want raw gold, then you need to measure it against a basic strategy such as running Iron Dogs repeatedly, which makes about 5,000 gold per hour, or just over 80 gold a minute. Killing the Nythendra took me a minute to make 225 gold, so it is a good use of your time. So having killed Nythendra, select the option Leave Instance Group and return to Archmage Timir in Dalaran, and now select the option Grant Me a Vision of the Tormented Guardians. You'll be transported to the Emerald Nightmare version of Grizzly Hills, where you have to fight Ursok. Now there's a trick here which makes this part of the dungeon a lot more profitable. I just love that squeaky Ursok voice. Now again, it'll take you around a minute to kill Ursok with eye level 450 gear, which again makes this almost 3 times as profitable as a baseline gold making activity such as running Iron Docks repeatedly or Skyreach. Once you killed Ursok, and this is important, don't leave the instance group this time. Instead use teleport out of dungeon and you'll be returned to Dalaran. Now immediately teleport to the dungeon and you'll be taken to Malfurion in the centre of the Emerald Nightmare. This will save you the long run back from Ursok. Now take the northeast passage to the Emerald Dreamway. That's the passage that goes up steeply. These portals are a bit glitchy, as you can tell here. Kill the Dragons of Nightmare and again teleport out of the dungeon and then teleport straight back in to return to Malfurion at the centre of the Nightmare. Speak to Malfurion, teleport to the Nightmare version of Moonglade and then kill Cenarius. Cenarius can be downed faster than any other raid boss in Legion content. Now we're finished with the Emerald Nightmare as there's no way to efficiently kill Xavius, so leave the instance group and return to Archmage Timir in the Violet Hold. Select the tooltip option Grant Me a Vision of the Arcing Aqueducts. Now the first boss you'll want to kill here is Scorpion. Make sure you kill the ads on the way though, or the door to Chromatica normally won't open. That's the second boss. Now Scorpion is a very fast kill. I found that with my eye level 450 gear I could do the whole of this LFR wing with all 3 bosses in about 5 minutes, which is well worthwhile. It's well above the baseline. For characters that have recently just dinged 120, you might want to give the last two bosses here a pass. Now leave the instance group and return to Tamir, and select the option Grant Me a Vision of the Night Spire, and follow the routes I'm going to show you now. Now, when you reach the grill that takes you outside of the aqueducts, it's very important to drop combat. The reason you do this is that once you drop combat, you can mount up, and that significantly reduces the time taken to get to the boss Spellblade Oriel. If your eye level is below 450, or you don't have a means to drop combat, you might want to skip this one. I can do Spellblade Oriel in 1 minute 40 seconds, which normalised to an hourly rate works out at about 9,000 gold per hour. Leave the instance group and return to Archmage Tamir, and now select the option Grant Me a Vision of the Night Spire. And this is going to lead you to the boss Tichondrius, and I'm going to speed up the route to Tichondrius now. After you kill Tichondrius, you're done with the Nighthold. The remaining 3 bosses have an insane amount of roleplay and they're quite difficult to get to. Having killed Tichondrius, leave the instance group and return to Tamir and the Violet Hold, and now select the option Grant Me a Vision of the Gates of Hell. This is at the very start of the Tomb of Sargeras instance. Run up the stairs and wait for the roleplay to conclude. Now kill the boss Goroth. Goroth goes down pretty quickly in roughly 1 minute and 30 seconds with eye level 50 gear. I tried doing the other 2 bosses in this wing of LFR, Hajatan and Mistress Sazine. This whole wing of LFR took me about 6 minutes, which means that doing the other 2 bosses isn't really worth my time. However, if you have excellent gear and or a more mobile class, then it's probably worth completing this wing. Now that is it for LFR. You might reasonably ask, what about running Legion raids on normal, heroic and mythic? The best option, especially for druids and mages who can use their class Order Hall ports to get very close to the entrance in Val'sharah, is to kill Nathendra on both normal and heroic difficulty. That gives you around 450 gold for 2 to 3 minutes work. Beyond Nathendra, there isn't really that much that gives an acceptable hourly return. I found that doing the Nighthold bosses on average took 2 minutes to kill, which is not worth doing relative to the baseline, given that you have to spend time actually getting to the instance. A class like a monk or a demon hunter can really shine in the Nighthold, since all that running along passages is much faster when you have an ability like Roll or Fell Rush. So for these classes and players with excellent gear, it is worth running Nighthold up to Tichondrius. Don't do the last 3 bosses, it's a waste of time. Now, why are we doing this, and also when should we do it? The 12 bosses I mentioned should give a single character an additional 2,700 gold when all the items that drop from bosses are vended. It will take you about 15 minutes to do all of it. This can be done weekly, so if you have 4 characters you can make 10,800 gold per week doing this in an hour. That's a very good rate of return for raw gold, and it adds up significantly over time if you have multiple alts. However, there are a few things that make more raw gold. Firstly, Mists of Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor raids offer better gold returns than this. I made a similar video in 8.2, which I'll link to below, which shows you how to use the same LFR boss skipping techniques I've used in this video with Mists and Warlords raids. You should do the Mists and Warlord raids first. If you use the LFR skipping for all the most accessible bosses in all 3 expansions, you can make roughly 13,000 gold per week for each character. Secondly, world quests can be more profitable than running old raids. This is a little more complicated, but essentially you want to be running world quests where your return is greater than 150 gold per minute. As a rule of thumb, that's any gold quest which contributes to an emissary cache. With non-emissary world quests, it depends what the reward is, how long it takes to get to, and how long it takes to complete. Finally, it's worth mentioning that while Legion dungeons are generally not worth running, there's one notable exception, and that's the seat of the Triumvirate in Macri, Argus. It's easy to miss this one because if you run through the dungeon in its entirety, then it's not particularly profitable. What you need to do is rush around gathering up the trash around the first boss, just as I'm doing here. I made a video about this earlier in the expansion, but it's got a lot better due to successive increases in eye level. It's now pretty easy to pull all the trash before the first boss in one pull. So you can do the whole thing in about a minute, and you get just under 200 gold from it, on average. Make sure you've got some kind of add-on which will sell all the trash items that drop here quickly. If you're interested in discovering gold making secrets beyond the scope of this video that can't be mentioned publicly, you may wish to join my super secret Patreon feed, where methods too hot for YouTube are posted regularly. But at this time I totally understand that many people can't afford it or just don't want to sign up for whatever reason. So be aware I'll continue to post free content for the foreseeable future on this channel. Thanks for watching. This has been Archvelder.